Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we will take a look at some new HOA content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
First one is titled, HOA turned off my pool fob because my disability is distracting. Okay, so when we moved into our condo, our HOA was actually pretty good. But ever since one crazy old bat got on the board, everything has gone downhill. It all started at the end of last summer. I'm disabled. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and fibromyalgia, and I use a cane to walk. As part of my physical therapy, I used to pool to do hydrotherapy routines. No one I had met minded this as I only took up a corner of the pool. But after being witnessed doing water therapy by this old bat, everything changed. She got the nastiest look on her face, and informed me that I was taking up too much space in the pool and was distracting and detracting from others' enjoyment. It's a huge pool, and I'm not a big person. Anyway, winter came and I thought that was the end of it, but I tried to go down to the pool a few weeks ago at the beginning of our vacation. My husband and I are teachers. Our pool fob had been turned off. And we called the HOA, and they sent us a BS form letter about us violating pool rules, which we never have. It's absolutely ridiculous that I now have to pay for a Y membership to do therapy when the pool is literally behind our condo, all because one old bitch hates disabled people. Next one is titled, Father and Mother Died and a Lawyer is saying their property joins an HOA after their death. My father moved into a rural area in 1980, a few years after I was born, and soon came my sister. They stayed there ever since. We grew up, etc. etc. Dad died in 2012, and Mom died in December 2018. My sister moved away in 2002 to get married, kids etc. And doesn't want to be involved in the affairs since I am the eldest son and she lives 3/4 of the country away. Over the years the area was developed and is now more of a suburb. Either way, I take possession of the house through the will, affairs of the estate etc. Basic total control, nothing to worry about. I get a letter in the mail in February that my parents agreed after their death to sell the house through the trust to the HOA and the property would be up for sale. I find no such documentation and my demand to the lawyer, which is a legit licensed lawyer, is going unanswered to provide the written documentation. I've left a few messages with the admin there, but I am not putting any effort into it if they are not going to respond. I am not one for sentimental value, and I really am not attached to the house. So if they want it, the price is going to be dictated by me, not them. I live a couple towns away and I have no interest in moving in. My house is bigger, or even thinking about keeping it. 1. My dad was getting senile and might have agreed to something. 2. My mom is a pushover and might have agreed to something. 3. If it isn't in writing, does it mean it is useless? 4. What if they do come after for the sale? Should I just ask for top dollar and or fight it, making it a non-HOA house in an ocean of HOA property? Edit, April 22, 2019. After receiving my green slip back and leaving multiple voicemails, I finally got a letter in the mail, but it was basically saying it was a verbal agreement. Not gonna fly. Good luck. I am sending a letter today demanding an in-face meeting on the property with the lawyer, HOA members, or I will be asking the Board of Zoning to change it so I can install a wastewater treatment facility. Update. So, after receiving a certified letter at the end of April from the HOA's attorney, he basically ignored me about the verbal agreement details. I contacted my corporate attorney who I've known for nearly 2 decades with, and he's got a CT bar license, so he'll help if I need to. After not hearing from their attorney for over a couple weeks, leaving calls and messages with his admin, I realized that I was not going to get what I wanted, which was literally to talk to the guy and get the HOA's documentation. So one last college try at the end of April and nothing still. I got crap to do and all I got now is a slab and some overgrown lawn, which with the coming of spring and the constant rain is turning into a mud pit. I live 2 towns over and I don't have time for this. On May 3rd, I sent a notice to the surrounding houses that construction was to begin on a new sewage treatment plant and to contact the HOA board for more information, knowing it would take USPS a day or two. Brought the dozer back on a flatbed and planted it in the driveway where you couldn't miss it. 8 a.m. on Tuesday the next week. Got a call from an HOA representative wanting to argue with me in regards to this new plant and so forth about property rights, ownership, etc. Not going to lie, choice words and yelling ensued, ending with, "If your goddamned lawyer would call me back, we wouldn't be having this discussion. Good luck with the smell." Keep in mind, nothing filed with the town, no real desire to create a sewage treatment plant, but if you want to ignore me, good luck. About 45 minutes later I get a call on my cell from an attorney, and I swear to God I was talking to a hostage instead of a lawyer. I told him, I will see him at my parents' address, at 3 p.m. and we'll finish this deal one way or another and bring a laptop. Wanted to argue about not officially meeting in an office blah blah, and I hung up. That was on May the 7th. I knew full well why I chose to send the letter on the 3rd, that because on Wednesday coming up the HOA board has its monthly meeting, so I wanted it on the agenda. For about an hour, calls would come in from the attorney's admin wanting to change it to his offices, wanted to work this out by mail, etc. Nope, 3 p.m. on site. Called my attorney, he luckily was out of court by 11 and would come down. Had lunch with him and headed back to the property. Grabbed a couple of lawn chairs, a folding table from my house, and my attorney brought a laptop and a printer. If you know my attorney, I've known him for decades and he is a no BS, let's get it done, no mercy kinda guy right from law school. Went from corporate IP to family law and dabbles in real estate, good guy to know. 2:55 rolls around and they show up. The lawyer and 2 board members. One who looks like he should move to God's waiting room and the other a mid-50s kinda guy who's probably an orthodontist. We all make introductions and sit, and I say, this is how this is gonna go. You want this property and I want to sell. I am tired of the games and the non-responsiveness. In the next 15 minutes, you're going to buy this property pending approval the HOA board majority, and you can do whatever you want with this place. You'll own it free and clear. The orthodontist speaks and attempts to say, as conveyed to us by past board members, that your father advised us that the property would automatically be transferred to the HOA upon your parents' death. He actually sounded articulate and with some authority. I like him. Me. What docs do you have to support that? Ortho. Nothing, just witnesses. Goes into a discussion on how it was told to them by board members and that their unresponsiveness was because they thought they were in the clear and no reason to work with me because it was all legal, blah blah, and they were going to get the property by some court decree shortly. I look over to my attorney and he looks back. Well, fortunately for you, that's at least 50% true. You'll get this property, but it's not free. Brass tacks. $XXX, you pay all closing costs and you'll have my signature the minute you have approval. We'll facilitate the docs and the routing wire information. The eyes of the crypt keeper and the ortho went wide and he said, that's a lot of money. We'll have to bring it to the board to vote, but I am unsure. Good enough for me. We have some preliminary docs and an official letter to present. Looked over at my attorney and was printing the docs away on the table. The lawyer says, well, it'll take up to 30 days and the bank check will take as long for an entity of this type if this is approved. My attorney says, the best thing I heard in a long time. Love you, Mark. We have e-file capability with 3-day turnaround filing to the state. Towns and wire transfers take no more than 15 minutes unless the feds are backed up. There's no title issue, no liens, no environmental or waste removal issues. It's yours to enjoy as you see fit. I'll be available right after the HOA meeting to file the docs and Tuesday to receive the transfer. That's why he gets paid. He hands over the docs, standard P&S with the amount just typed in, with our cover letter for the board. I grabbed the ortho's business card. Apparently, he's a school admin. The other guy is a retired electrician, and the attorneys as well. Well, the board meeting went well. I was told by a resident that it was a lot of arguing about not having documentation, wanting to actually challenge my ownership of the estate property in court, and eventually the amount. Yeah, I asked a lot, but then again they could have countered and didn't. It was not a good meeting, but in the end it was approved. Apparently, another lawyer who was a resident basically told them they had no standing and I could do whatever I want with it, with or without the board's approval. I don't know if the HOA lawyer was there. My lawyer dropped by 10:15 p.m. at a pub 99 and I signed the docs for the final P&S and we had beers as he filed online. He said I would get a copy in a week and would file paper copies with the town, but the deal is done when the money is transferred. Today, 8:15 a.m. got a message that the HOA initiated a wire transfer and around 8:45 got confirmation of receipt of funds. My parents bought the place in December 1980 for $28,500. It served us well and I flipped it for nearly 27 times that. It was a good home, but you have to move on. It'll be built or turned into a park or something, but alas, it's over and done with. Most of it is going to my kids' college and technical school tuition and the rest to my sister for her kids. Thanks, Dad. Last one is titled, The Sweetest Revenge. My wife and I purchased our first home when we were 24 and 25. We spent months looking at houses and areas and tried to find a forever home in a good school district for our future kids. We finally found a perfect one at a decent price. At first everything was great, super nice neighborhood and decent neighbors. A few months after buying the house we rented an RV to go on a trip and parked it in the driveway for the 3 days leading up to the trip to pack it and for me to learn how half the things in it worked. Well, this is when we learned that HOAs are absolutely crazy and our neighbor was on the board of our local HOA. Within an hour of it being parked he got home and stormed over demanding we remove it from his neighborhood, or he would have it towed and fine us for every hour it was there. I told him kindly to get bent and get out of my driveway and told him if he returns I'll call the cops because he was screaming like a madman inches from my face. About 3 hours later a big rig tow truck shows up, and he walked up like he was a god and handed me a plain envelope with a letter inside that pretty much said, by order of the HOA this RV is to be towed, and a fine of $1,500 for violating their rules. While Mr. Crazy board member might not listen to reason, the tow truck guy they found wasn't so fond of entering my driveway and towing a vehicle when I told him if he comes on the property I'll call the cops. I call up my attorney, write him a $500 check and bring along all the papers I received when purchasing the home and the current letter I just received. The next day my attorney had a very friendly letter sent to my neighbor and the HOA board. Basically telling my neighbor to get bent in legal terms and to leave us and our property alone. Despite this, I then continued to receive fines of $1,500 a day in plain envelopes not postmarked stuffed into my mailbox that I then turned over to my friend's father, and each time he sent another set of letters and contacted USPS to report the incidents. Turns out putting mail into people's mailbox is a crime, who knew? Well, here's where the fun really begins. Turns out Mr. Crazy finally gives me a summons to appear before the board. My attorney said this is crazy illegal because what they've done is use what looks like an actual legal document improperly to summon me to the board. Another $500 to the attorney, and we wait for the date they made, a Tuesday at 10 a.m. They attempt to keep my attorney out of the room on some board privacy rule but quickly shut up when he begins going over their own rules that they are violating to them. Deep in this HOA book are some very nicely worded rules and stuff outlining about what makes board members ineligible, and how they cannot serve if they commit certain infractions. Well, guess what Mr. Crazy Neighbor has done? Committed several of them, all documented. The cherry on top is that if 51% of the HOA members vote to dissolve the HOA, it all goes away. Well, it happens my wife worked part-time from home during this mess and had all the free time in the world to begin a disband the HOA campaign. The HOA attempted to stall everything by holding no meetings, another HOA violation, and began their own campaign trying to change HOA rules to keep from being ousted, and a fairly awful flyer and letter to everyone, explaining the dangers of not having an HOA and all the bad people, blacks and Mexicans, that will move in and take over, sell illegal substances, etc. that our houses would become much less valuable and everything else they could try. A few weeks after their fear campaign failed, a vote was called for and went our way. The HOA was no more and all remaining funds were to be dispersed back to the homeowners and members equally. This never happened. Turns out somehow the HOA used all their funds in the course of the last 2 months. About half the former board members sold their homes and moved, including Mr. Crazy Neighbor. I've spent 3 hours trying to find old news articles because it was reported on mostly due to the prejudiced letters by the HOA, but it was too long ago to find anything. Moral of the whole mess: don't buy a home in an HOA, and if you do, plan on hiring an attorney. Thanks for listening.